Hello everybody, this is Debo with Debo's Movie Reviews here, and today I'll be reviewing Die Another Day, starring Pierce Brosnan in his final outing as James Bond, Halle Berry as Jinx, featuring Toby Stephens as Gustav Graves, Rosamund Pike as Miranda Frost, Michael Madsen as Falco, who was the handler for Jinx, who was an NSA. Then you got William Lee as Colonel Moon, Rick Yune as Zal, and a cameo by Madonna, who also did the theme song, and one I'll just say is about like the worst Bond theme ever. But great direction by Lee Tamahori. I mean, I gotta say, this is definitely a standout for 2002. And the last of the original canon of the Bonds that went from Connery to Brosnan. Though, personally, I guess mentioned the reviews of the other Brosnan Bonds, about how I almost considered them in a different cameo because of, or should I say canon, not cameo. I don't know why I said that, but yeah. Just on basis of how the continuity between like Grown Man Secret Agent from 1962 to the 80s. I mean, up to Connery to Dalton makes sense. Where I almost want to say Brosnan was his own timeline, given how there was no mentions of his late wife, Tracy, who was from Majesty's Secret Service, nor no Felix Leiter. Instead, you had Jack Wade in GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies, and then but the only connecting piece was Desmond Llewellyn playing Q from in the Brosnan timeline from GoldenEye to World's Not Enough, which he died not long after. And of course, I gotta give it to John Cleese as R, or at least taking his full amount of Q as Q. That is, because hell, you know, he knocked out of the park, and shame we didn't get more of his version, since this one was kind of, since after this they decided to just reboot with Craig. I mean, hell, I kind of thought one part was kind of iffy was in casting departments was Toby Stephens as Gustav Graves. I mean, he did a good job for a villain based on the likes of Richard Branson. Although if it was made today, you'd be based on Elon Musk. Of course, whereas you got the whole deal of how Monica Graves was from a very expensive and exclusive plastic surgery by William Lee's character Colonel Moon, who was a North Korean colonel who was going rogue and doing illegal arms deals and such. Which at the beginning of the movie Bond was investigating until, of course, he got captured and did 14 months in the hole, which where Bond gets traded out for in exchange for Zal. After he got burned by Miranda Frost, who he didn't find out till like later on in the movie, and of course, we got some great scenes in Hong Kong where he meets some agents in there, and then the whole Cuba sequence, which I could say a flaw of that sequence in the movie was no epic car chase between. It should have been like should have set the epic car chase between Bond and Zhao in that sequence. I mean, given how the Cuban embargo let them and all them cool ass cars from the 1950s and such, where he got around that old Ford Fairlane. I mean, that would have been some badass uses of that car. Hell. But I got to admit some Easter eggs out of that one, which, like that novel Bird of the West Indies, which was, of course, where Sir Ian Fleming got the name James Bond from because he from the ornithologist who was also named James Bond. And then, of course, he got the old sequence with. But I do gotta admit, that was some badass scenes in that one. And I gotta give it to Rick Yune as Zhao. He made a damn good villain. I mean, between as Zhao and then you got the first Fast and Furious movie where he was Johnny Tran. I mean, he knocked it out of the park. But I do gotta give it to that Ice Palace chase. And that was epic. From how, even after the first encounter with Gray's in that gentleman's club, and then followed by that whole sequence where he jumps out of the plane to London Calling. I mean, talk about some epic use of soundtrack right there. Definitely makes up for that cringy Madonna song. Cause yeah, Madonna was never. I was just never a fan of Madonna. But to the point that they used the fact that Madonna was candy. I'm surprised Guy Ritchie didn't direct this. But then again, Guy Ritchie, on the other hand, he's one of them directors who's not good unless he's got his people in a movie. Well, that'll be explained for when I get around to Snatch or Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels or something like that. Now back to Die Another Day. I gotta mention a lot badass with that Ice Palace sequence from how kind of like even the old references to previous Bond films throughout that, kind of like how you got the old underground office with Q having a little lab down there, and I gotta say that's kind of epic. From all those Easter eggs, from like the Rosa Klebb shoe, the Thunderball rebreather, the jet from Octopussy, the Gator Fang from Octopussy, even the jetpack from Octopussy. I mean, Thunderball, that is. I don't know why I said Octopussy, because over there just mix up from that sequence. And of course, with that badass Aston Martin Vanquish, which kind of broke another tradition from the Brosnan movies, to where throughout the other ones was always like BMWs. Now he went back to Aston Martins. And not just the DB5 from that racing scene from GoldenEye. And then of course he got Zhao in that Jaguar. I mean, I kind of thought it was a pretty badass car, although all of kind of flawed in that one was how Jinx didn't take part in that instead of just being another damsel in distress trope, which was kind of a bit cliche. I mean, because the fact that Halle Berry's Jinx was driving that badass T-Bird. I mean, come on, that would have been so cool to have that take place. Throughout the movie, and then hell. But I gotta admit, Jinx was pretty much one of the more badass of the Bond girls. I mean, it's about up there with Pam Bouvier, Wei Lin, Anya Amasova. And Paloma from No Time to Die. That'd be up there in the Bond good girls, not villains who turned evil like Miranda Frost, like who was an agent who went native. But I gotta mention the old badass sword fight scene between Bond and Graves in that club. I mean, that was absolute badass. And then you got that guy who was named Mr. Kill. While they try to reenact in that scene where you got to reenact Goldfinger with except with Jinx and the laser thing. Yeah, man, talk about action past masterpiece. Great action all around. I mean, Michael Madsen knocked out of the park with that one of his role. Kind of like he would have made a good Felix Leiter, and instead they decided to use him in that timeline. Still use him in that timeline in some form, but hey, Brosnan he knocked out of the park there, even alongside, like I say, great villain plot of North Korean general to turn gets surgery to turn into a British millionaire or billionaire who thinks he's solving the environment with a satellite, which is really just a death ray. Kind of like with Goldfinger in the movie and the book, where billionaire who colluded with a communist Chinese, and of course you got that whole epic, even a more epic fight scene between Frost and Jinx. I mean, just and that old infamous "read this, bitch" line. And yeah, with the castings of Halle Berry with Pierce Brosnan, you can almost say now that you can say that moment. You almost say that moment when Dr. Fate hooked up a Catwoman. Because yeah, I don't know. Halle Berry's Catwoman doesn't really count, but because that wasn't Selena Kyle and such. But yeah, I'll explain that when I get around to that. But hey, good job with DCU casting Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Now, as if the heads of WB don't cancel that too. But hey, Die Another Day, I give it about a 4 out of 5. Great action, great acting. Debatable music. I mean, Clash's London Calling pretty much was the best part music wise. Badass cars. Great gunplay from like that lab when Bond having a 6-shooter he got from that sleeper agent in Cuba, and then the whole deal with that other guy. There it is, like makes that. I mean, just yeah. If you saw a movie, you know what I'm talking about. Overall, a 4 out of 5. I mean, I hope y'all like, subscribe, and enjoy the movie. Like y'all enjoyed my reviews of it. And I'll keep dishing them out.